YouTube. And today I'm just getting off from and headed home. I'm not driving, so don't worry about that. I'm a passenger. First off, I would like to say thank you to everyone who has, given us thumbs up or given us donations. We really appreciate that. And we thank you for following our channel, Jason Adam TV. All right, today I'm going to talk about how Jason and I met and a little bit about our history together. We've been together since 2001. So it's been over 22 years now. And we met at university in America. The interesting thing is that before we really knew each other, we met on a dating app. Back then, I think it was gay.com. They had a dating app.
It's a Lonely Planet.
No, Lonely Planet is a travel guide. It wasn't Lonely Planet. I'm pretty sure it was gay.com. I don't think they have a dating site on there anymore, but they used to back in 2001. So I was looking through the profiles and I saw Jason's profile, and he looked like a really nice guy and a really friendly guy. So I started emailing him. We didn't have smartphones back then. So I emailed him, and I was trying to convince him to go on a date. He was rather shy at first, and it took several emails to get him to agree to go on a date with me. So our first date was in April 2001, and we went to the university rodeo. The university we went to had a rodeo, and a rodeo, for those who don't know, is when cowboys participate in competitions like roping cows and things like that, and riding horses around barrels, trying to catch greased pigs and those kinds of things, cowboy things. And so I invited Jason to come over to meet me at my dorm, and from there we would go to the rodeo. Well, Jason's English wasn't so good back then. I remember I met him in the lobby, and I told him to follow me back to my room, and I went through the electric door, the security door, and I expected him to follow me. I turned around, and he was still waiting in the lobby, so I had to go back and get him. I was sick that day. I remember.
I was sick too.
I was very sick.
Was it me who gave you the medicine?
Yeah, you gave me medicine for my cold or whatever it was. I was very sick, but I was determined to go on that date because it had taken me so long to get him to agree to go on a date.
You want to wear the capsule? You want?
I'll try it. Okay. Oh man, the sun is horrible. The late afternoon sun here. I don't think the cap helps much. I'll sit up. So we went to the rodeo, and we had a good time, except for I was very sick.
Oh, you didn't tell them that we were actually classmates, you know?
Well, that came later. Okay. I'm telling it in chronological order. So that night, Jason asked me if I was sure that I was gay. Because he was afraid maybe I was just pretending to be gay. I don't know why I would pretend to be gay, especially during that time. People weren't as open back then about same-sex relationships. But anyway, I assured him that I was gay, and he actually spent the night with me. We didn't have sex because I was so sick.
I was hugging.
Yeah, he held me that night, and for some reason I felt very at home with Jason. I just felt like we were meant to be together. And so anyway, that summer we actually moved into the same dorm room together. And
why I could move in with you? Because we were classmates, did you say that?
Well, of course, we went to the same university. I did say that. The semester before, the spring semester, we had signed up for classes. And at the time, we didn't know each other when we signed up for classes, and we didn't know that we had the same major. So when we moved in together in the summer, we figured out we had the same class schedule. It was like we had every class together the next semester, that fall. So we spent a lot of time together that summer and also that fall, and we fell more in love with each other. And then Jason graduated, and I was lost without him. I tried to continue on and to finish up my master's degree, but I missed a crucial test. I slept through a crucial test that would have set me back at least one semester, and I decided that I didn't want to wait any longer. I knew that I could teach in Taiwan with my bachelor's degree, and so I finished out the semester, and then I just left school and came to Taiwan to teach. That was in December 2002, and I've been in Taiwan ever since with Jason. Now, at first, Jason didn't tell his mom that we were a couple. Jason's mom owned a house and rented rooms to people. So I was actually renting a room from Jason's mom and staying in a separate room for a while. But then I started sleeping in Jason's room, and one day Jason's mom caught me in a towel in Jason's room. I had just come out of the shower, and so I think Jason finally let her in on the fact that we were a couple.
Okay, any questions before we move on?
Does anyone have any questions?
No, I don't see any questions. Let me see.
Or comments?
Let me see.
So yeah, back then when we met and got together in 2001, we didn't have any idea that same-sex marriage would be legalized in our lifetime. So when it became legal, we didn't get married right away. I think it became legal in the U.S. Same-sex marriage became legal in the U.S. in the summer of 2015. The summer of 2015, maybe August 2015, if I remember correctly. The Supreme Court ruled that same-sex couples have the same marriage rights as opposite-sex couples. And later that year, in December, we went back to the U.S. for Christmas, December 2015, and we got married in the U.S. then. And of course, we didn't have a big wedding because we'd already spent a lot of money on the trip, and to us, it wasn't like a wedding. We've been together at that point for 15 or 14 years.
We were kind of upset with your mom's reaction.
Yes. Okay. My family are devout Christians, and at first, my mom would not agree for Jason and I to stay in the same room in her house, because she thought that she would be promoting sin by allowing us to stay in the same room in her house together. And we had a big argument about that. And she never changed her mind about the same room thing. She finally let us stay in her house, but we had to sleep in different rooms, which is ridiculous. I mean, we'd been together, at that point for 14 years. Well, in 2015, she didn't let us stay in the same house together. She didn't let us stay at her house, and that was really hurtful to me and Jason also. We stayed at another location in 2015 and came to visit my parents. We also went to visit my aunt and some other people. But yes, that was very hurtful that my parents weren't supportive. And I didn't even tell them that we were getting married in December 2015. We just did it, and I had the marriage certificate sent to my parents' house, and they forwarded it to me. So they found out that we got married when they got the official wedding certificate in the mail.
They finally accept the truth.
Well, they weren't really supportive of our marriage and us being together, but the year that my mom passed away in January 2019, we went back to visit, and she finally agreed for us to stay together in the same house, but not in the same room. So Jason slept in my old room, and I slept in my youngest brother's room when we went back in January 2019. My mom was very sick then. She had some kind of respiratory disease, and she was very stubborn about not going to see the doctor. And I wonder if that didn't contribute to her heart attack later that year. So yeah, my mom had a heart attack in November 2019, and she was on life support for a few days, and then when we got the results of her neurological exam back, we decided that it would be in her best interest to take her off life support, because she had always told us that she didn't, if she had a stroke or a heart attack and had to be on life support, she didn't want to be resuscitated. She didn't want to. My father had Alzheimer's at the time, so he didn't tell the paramedics when she had her heart attack that she didn't want to be resuscitated. So the family kept her on life support long enough for me to come back and for her to have a neurological exam to see the state of her brain. And it turned out her anoxic brain injury was too severe for her to recover. So we made the decision to take her off life support.
Do you want to talk about your culture shock when you came here first?
Oh, yes. Well, like I said, I came to Taiwan for Jason. I didn't come necessarily because I was very interested in Taiwanese culture. So I did read a book about Taiwan and study, accounts from people who had lived in Taiwan on the internet. So I wasn't, totally ignorant of Taiwan culture, but I still experienced quite a bit of culture shock when I first came to Taiwan. One of the things is I was teaching kindergarten, and in Taiwanese schools, in Taiwanese kindergartens, the teachers watch the students eat lunch, and also they try to make the students eat all of their lunch. So even if it's a yucky food or a food the kids don't like, the teacher usually won't let them have nap time until they finish their lunch, which is different from kindergarten in America. In America, we usually didn't eat in the classroom, we ate in the cafeteria. And if there was a food we didn't like, we didn't have to eat it. We just threw it away. So that was a bit of culture shock. Also, the garbage trucks here play music, and it's not kind of soft music, it is blasting loud. It's like rock concert level music, but it's not rock music. It's either Beethoven or Maiden's Prayer.
No,
those,
I remember you asked me.
Those were the two songs that they play.
I remember that you asked me if it's ice cream truck.
Well, I mean, in America, the only trucks that play music are ice cream trucks. And so it was a shock that a stinky garbage truck shows up when this classical music is playing, like Fur Elise or A Maiden's Prayer. And evidently Taiwanese people are really proud of this garbage system, because before people just littered on the streets and everywhere, and they finally came up with this system where basically you at a certain time of the day you stand out, usually like 6 o'clock or so, you stand outside your house and you wait to hear the music, and then you run up to the garbage truck and throw your garbage in the truck as it goes by. And the Taiwanese people are proud of this system. I don't know why, but they are. The music is very distracting, especially for someone like me, when I'm trying to teach around 6 p.m. and it goes past my school playing the music very loudly, so loudly that you can hear it through the windows. So that's one of the things about Taiwan culture that was shocking to me. Another thing is, Jason and I went to eat at a restaurant. In Taiwan, tipping is not mandatory and even not encouraged at a lot of restaurants. So some things you have to do for yourself. Like in many restaurants in Taiwan, you have to get your own drink. They leave the cola fountain or soda fountain in the public area where the people can go pick up their own glass and get their own cola or whatever it is they drink, tea or whatever. So one day we went to a restaurant and I was going to get my cola, and I had a bowl of rice on the table, and I had chopsticks. I didn't want the chopsticks to touch the dirty table, so I stuck my chopsticks in my rice. This is a big no-no in Chinese culture. If you stick your chopsticks straight up in your rice, it is a sign of an offering to the dead. And so you are not supposed to do it unless you're leaving a food offering to the dead. So as I was going back to my seat with my cola, I saw a waitress pick up my chopsticks and slap them down on the table. And I thought, wow, that is very rude. But it's just one of the quirks of culture in Taiwan, and many other Chinese societies do the same thing.
How about, feeding you food?
Oh, yes. In Taiwan, especially in family get-togethers or large groups, it is expected that people will put food on your plate, even if you don't want to eat it. And it's considered rude to turn it down. That's another thing that drove me crazy, because I'm very picky about my food. And there are certain things that I'll eat and certain things I won't eat. And so at first, when someone put something on my plate, I felt like picking it up and putting it on their plate, because in American culture, it's considered rude to assume what another person wants to eat, and it's considered rude to touch their plate or mess with anything on their plate or their utensils. That's their things. You're not supposed to touch them. That's just Western table etiquette, American table etiquette. So I also thought that was rude. And let's see. The driving in Taiwan. I could talk
On and on and on.
I could talk on and on about the driving in Taiwan. Taiwanese people are very nice face to face, but once they get behind the wheel of a car, it's like they become different people.
Like a hawk.
And they're always in a rush. Coming from a small town, now people from big cities in America might relate to this more, but coming from a small town in Tennessee, You know, people are usually not in a rush in a small town to get to a place. And sometimes, you know, if they see you coming up on their bumper really fast, they'll even pull over and let you go past them. But drivers in Taiwan are extremely aggressive. And up until recently, they would run you down in a crosswalk. Finally, the government has started cracking down on not yielding to pedestrians in crosswalks, and they've raised the fines, and people have started paying more attention to pedestrians in crosswalks. But before, when I first came to Taiwan, I actually covered my eyes on the taxi ride from the airport because I would see cars running through crosswalks with people in them. And, you know, the people were just lucky they didn't get hit. And I asked Jason, I said, how do blind people live in Taiwan? Because, you know, blind people in Western countries, they know that cars will stop for them in a crosswalk. But in Taiwan, it doesn't always happen. In fact, the second school I worked in Taiwan, one of the teachers got hit in the crosswalk and broke both her legs in the first couple of weeks in Taiwan. She was from South Africa, and she expected the cars to yield to pedestrians, and they didn't, and she got hit. So the driving is kind of scary in Taiwan.
I'm going to get dinner for myself.
Okay. Another thing, I mentioned this in my adult English class. I asked them the question, what does a flashing yellow light above the road mean? And what does a flashing red light above the road mean? And they thought both of them meant to slow down and yield. But of course, a flashing red light doesn't mean to slow down. It means stop. It doesn't matter if it's flashing or it's a solid red. You're supposed to stop. So that's concerning. A lot of the rules of the road, Taiwanese people are not familiar with, or maybe they have forgotten them over time. Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments?
We can talk about more, traffic situation in Taiwan. Like, when you were, heading to work, and there were some crazy people, scare crap out of you.
Oh, well, I've had several many near misses.
Yeah.
Cars here like to park on the side of the street. Taiwan is a densely populated country, and there aren't many parking places. So people love to stop by roadside stands to get food for dinner on the way home from work or school. So they will park their cars on the side of the road, double park on the side of the road illegally, and once they get their food, they will just pull a U in the middle of the road, sometimes without checking to see if anything's coming. And I've had that happen to me many times. I've almost been hit by a car while riding my scooter by a car that just finished picking up dinner, and they made a U-turn in the middle of the road. There's definitely a pecking order for vehicles. Definitely a pecking order for vehicles in Taiwan, and bicycles are at the bottom of the list. Scooters are near the bottom. Then cars. Then expensive cars like Mercedes, BMW. I've seen Ferraris, Porsches, and cars like that. Then towards the top of the pecking list is the garbage truck and the bus. The garbage truck and the bus, they don't look out for anybody. You have to look out for them, and they drive like they own the road. But yes, traffic in Taiwan is quite scary, and people illegally park all the time. And the crazy thing is, the police in Taiwan, and I've seen this firsthand, the police won't write a parking ticket right away. They will turn on their siren to warn the person who's inside getting their dinner or whatever it is that they're illegally parked. And the police will turn on their siren several times and disturb the peace of the whole neighborhood just to warn the inconsiderate person who parked illegally outside the restaurant or the food stand to pick up their dinner to take home. And they'll give the person time to move their car. Usually the person will run outside with their baggie of food, and move the car so that the police won't write them a ticket. In America, it's quite different. If you're illegally parked in America, you will immediately get a ticket and you may get towed right away. In some cities, you get a boot, so you can't move your car. And they impound your car. So in Taiwan, the police are a little too friendly. Now, I don't want them to be the other way, like in America, where they sometimes shoot first and ask questions later. But the police in Taiwan are a bit too friendly. Another incident with the police that I had, we had in the old neighborhood Jason and I lived in, we had a drunk man, and everyone knew him. He was a notorious alcoholic. And one day I was just standing outside and out in the front door of my house, and he drove by and threw his drink on me and got me wet. And we called the police. The police came over, and the drunk man was arguing with and pushing the police officers, and they didn't arrest him. I was blown away. In America, someone who's belligerently drunk and someone who's pushing the police officer would definitely be arrested, probably tasered and then arrested. But they let him go. So the police are very, very friendly in Taiwan, maybe a bit too friendly. Yeah, Jason just wrote, "You're welcome to ask any questions." I welcome any questions, and I don't want people to think that Taiwan is a bad place to live. It's very, very safe, except for the traffic and walking on the streets. In the medium-sized cities like Hsinchu, there are not many pedestrian areas. In some places there are not sidewalks, or the sidewalks are blocked, and you can't walk on the sidewalks. You have to walk in the street. And so there's definitely a lot that needs to be done to make Taiwan a safer place for pedestrians. The bigger cities like Taipei and Kaohsiung have already done a lot to make things more pedestrian friendly and bicyclist friendly.
I think they are improving that.
But the other cities like Hsinchu, the medium-sized cities, have a long way to go to improve pedestrian and bicycle rider safety. But yeah, it's definitely a safe place to live. As far as violent crime, I've never witnessed a shooting here. I feel safe anywhere at all hours of the night, out in public. I've never felt scared or threatened in any way. And people have helped me find and return things. Like when I lost my cell phone, no one stole it. They returned it to me. I had Jason call the number, and the person on the other end answered and told him where to go to pick up the phone. So yeah, people by and large in Taiwan are very friendly and very law-abiding people.
Are you 30?
Yeah.
30.
Okay. Also, the cost of living in Taiwan is a lot lower than in other places, especially America. Every time I go back home, I'm blown away by how much more expensive things are in America than here. Generally, things like food and clothing. Clothing in America, there are a lot of outlet stores, and you can find clothing at a reduced price. And there are not as many outlet stores in Taiwan, but you can find reasonably priced clothing in Taiwan. Food is much cheaper in Taiwan. Eggs, bacon, meats are all cheaper than in America. The rent, unless you live in a big city like Taipei, the rents are reasonable. I'll add the caveat, I haven't paid rent in a while. Jason and I have owned our house for a while. We bought a house, and we bought an older house and renovated it. So the price was very cheap, the price for the house. And the renovations weren't too expensive either. So I would say that the cost of living compared to America is much, much lower. But the pay is lower too. If you're an English teacher, you can make more money than you would, say, working in retail in America, like at Walmart or in restaurants or things like that. And the pay is enough to live a very comfortable life in Taiwan. You can afford to buy a car. You can afford to eventually buy a house after you've been here several years. Now, I don't know how difficult it is for a foreigner to buy a house in Taiwan, because we bought our house in Jason's name, and then we added my name when we got married. But the cost of living is very reasonable here.
Okay, I guess he must be very tired.
Someone said, so you mentioned you taught in kindergarten. I was wondering how the school and students are aware of your sexuality, even the parents. Well, kindergarten students are not aware. They are too young, I think, for someone to talk about having a boyfriend or a girlfriend. And so I didn't talk about my sexuality with kindergarten students. And also their parents weren't aware. Since then, I have stopped teaching kindergarten. I teach older children now. And the reason is not because I don't like teaching kindergarten. It's mainly because I'm not a morning person. I don't like waking up early in the morning, and I enjoy teaching afternoons and evenings more. So I've transitioned to teaching older students in the afternoons and evenings. For a while there, I even taught adults in the evenings. And I enjoyed that job, but the pay wasn't as good as in cram school, teaching children. So
I think we should have mentioned about it in the school, but we can talk about it.
Right. My sexuality has not been an issue in the schools I'm teaching at. It especially wasn't an issue with teaching adults. I was very out and open with my adult students, and I never had anyone say any negative or derogatory comments. Taiwanese people are very open to same-sex couples, as long as it's not their own children. Now, if it's their own children, they might have something to say. But if it's not their children, Taiwanese people are very open about same-sex couples. And I've been open with the school that I teach at now about my sexuality, and they have not had a problem with it. So I think things are really becoming more open. And, if a school wasn't comfortable with my sexuality, then I wouldn't want to teach at that school. It's a thing of principle with me. I don't think it's psychologically healthy to hide who you are. And it doesn't do any favors to other people either, because eventually they are going to have to deal with same-sex couples in their lifetime. And if they know someone who is gay or who is lesbian or bisexual or transgender, then they will quickly figure out that they are just like everyone else. They have the same problems. They have the same, issues that everyone has in daily life.
I remember you mentioned about one of the owner of the kindergarten was actually gay long time ago. And,
yes, I worked it
also
a long time ago, and I'm not going to say the name of the school or where it was or anything, but a long time ago I worked at a kindergarten where the owner was gay. Now, I didn't tell him I was gay, and I didn't know he was gay. I just started working at the school, and one day he invited me to lunch. And I thought, wow, he's a nice boss. So we went to lunch, and he actually propositioned me to. Now, this was a married man. He was married to a woman, and he had children. He actually propositioned me. He asked me to spend the weekend with him. He said his wife would be away, and his children would be away, and we could do whatever we wanted to at his house together. And he didn't go out and say have sex, but that's definitely what he was aiming at. So I said, well, I have a boyfriend. At the time, Jason and I weren't married. And I said, I don't want to cheat on my boyfriend. And I said, besides, you have a wife. And he tried to claim that his wife was aware of his attraction to men, and that she turned a blind eye to his escapades with men. But I wasn't comfortable with that, and I turned him down. My contract wasn't renewed after that year. But yeah, it was a learning experience, and I learned a lot teaching children in kindergarten, and I used that in the next school that I went to. So I enjoy getting these questions. It's nice to hear from people, and yeah, I'm of the opinion that if someone has a problem with my sexuality, then they don't have to be around me, and they definitely shouldn't say anything derogatory or negative. And I'm not going to live my life in fear or in hiding of something that I have no control over, which is my sexuality. Speaking of sexuality, a lot of people have the erroneous belief that your sexuality is something that you determine. But they only believe that for some reason about gay people and lesbian and transgender and bisexual people. I don't understand why they don't also apply that illogic to same-sex couples. But from experience, I can tell you, in elementary school, like most elementary children, I didn't think about sex, and I wasn't attracted to the same sex or the opposite sex. I wasn't really attracted to anyone in that way in elementary school. When I got to junior high and high school, of course, I started going through puberty, and I started noticing that I was attracted to men. Back then, we didn't have internet. We didn't have any of those things. But, I saw men in commercials and men in catalogs, clothing catalogs and things like that. And I figured out that I was attracted to men.
You want to tell them what I have?
Okay, Jason just got back with his dinner. And yes, he parked illegally to pick up his food also. Very Taiwanese.
Yeah, it's a chicken cutlet.
Chicken cutlet, okay.
And noodles, seafood noodle.
Okay, Chen asked another question. He said, how do you see the woke culture in the U.S. and what is going on in Florida, if it's okay for you? Well, I have a problem with the name woke culture because I think that it is many times used to disparage people who care about human rights, and it's also used by people to make it seem okay to discriminate against other people, like people of color or same-sex couples. So I don't like the term woke culture, and I definitely don't like what's going on in Florida. I think Ron DeSantis is shrewd. I think he is using these social issues to drive a wedge between very socially conservative people in Florida and very socially liberal people in Florida, and he's using these social issues to advance his political career. I think that Ron DeSantis has no place being president of the United States. He shouldn't even be governor of Florida. He has already cost Florida billions of dollars by having this public feud with Disney. And Disney has decided not to build a new headquarters in Florida. So that is just over, this social wedge issues that he's using to advance his political career. He has already cost Floridians, the people of Florida, billions of dollars in jobs. It's ridiculous.
Is Chen living in America now?
Yeah, Chen, are you in America now? I don't know if he's still there.
Oh, it's okay.
Oh, he said no. Yeah, I think.
You, Yi Mei Zhen, thank you for your like.
Yeah, thank you for your like. I was going to say that in America, the news is kind of sensationalist, and they like to play up the rift between Democrats and Republicans. But polls show that the majority of Americans support same-sex couples in America. Okay. Jason wanted me to turn on the hazard lights on the car, or the emergency flashers. He's getting ready to park the car. But what I was going to say is there's a majority consensus in the U.S. that same-sex couples should enjoy the same rights as opposite-sex couples. Only a minority of people in America now do not believe in extending equal rights to same-sex couples. So for the majority of America, it's not an issue. But DeSantis has turned this into an election year wedge issue to divide people and to further his political career. So I don't always vote Democratic. I don't always vote Republican. But I definitely don't vote for the people who use social issues to divide people. People who want to deny human rights to someone based on the color of their skin, based on their ancestry, or based on their religious beliefs. I think that's very wrong, and it has no place in America.
Hey, babe. We can talk more about Taiwanese position, niche,
Okay.
Tomorrow. Okay, but you're interested, you're welcome to join us.
All right. So we'll continue this tomorrow. We're home now, and I will continue my chat tomorrow. Please leave comments even after the live stream is over, and I'll try to get back to you and talk about those next time. Bye-bye. All right. Thank you for watching Jason Adam TV. If you haven't, please subscribe and we'll see you next time.